If you were going to do this again, would you get a financial advisor?
Not in residency. No.
You would just wait till afterwards?
Yeah.
Do you think you was good with your money?
I think I was okay. I wasn't wasteful with my money.
You were better than me. I wasn't good with my money. I would have had a little bit more ducats if most of my money was going to entertain you. That's what it was.
How, Nee? We didn't live in the same city. Wrong girl.
Flying to see you.
Wrong girl.
Yo, Alfred, edit that. Yo, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box in this hot-ass basement in New Jersey.
Heat wave.
I'm Dr. Nee Darko, trauma surgeon. I'm also joined by...
Heat wave. Heat wave. Renee. Dr. Renee.
So she's suffering from heat stroke. And yeah, we here sweating in the basement because we love y'all. Before we jump into this, though, I just want to say, first of all, actually, I just need to give a shout out to everybody who's watching us on YouTube, as well as listening to us on the pod. We appreciate it. I'm telling you right now, if you're just listening to us on the pod, you're getting a great experience, but you're missing out on a lot of stuff that Alfred, our producer, our video editor, is doing. And it's just dope like that. So I just want to say, if you're watching us on YouTube, you're getting the full experience. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're getting an amazing experience. But I'm telling you, there's just a little bit more that you could be getting. So the links are in the show notes. Show nuts.
Show nuts.
Got him!
In the show nuts.
They are in the show notes.
In the show nuff.
There you go. They're in the show notes where you can catch everything. You can click on our YouTube links. You could also text us also and let us know what you think about the show, or if there's any future ideas that you think we should be talking about, or if there's anybody that you think that we should interview. This is a great way to reach us directly. You can text us at 833-230-2860. We get every text message. We look at it. We respond to it. I've done a better job.
Respond to every single text message?
I know. Trust, and peace. Yes. Trust. Everybody who has sent us a message on Instagram or text, my bad. But listen, over the last 2 to 3 months, we have caught up. It's just that your brother has been busy on a lot of things. So I just want to say thank you very much for being patient. And we are getting back to everybody on this. And as a matter of fact, listen, let's jump right into this. All right,
what are we talking about today?
No, because we got a question from people who listen to the show, right? We got a question
questions.
We got plenty of questions, but we're only going to do one question this time.
Okay.
And then we got 2 serious topics that we're going to talk about afterwards.
Okay.
So let's just jump right into this. So we got a question from Dr. Percy. Mm-hmm. Dr. Percy's transitioning from med school into becoming a resident.
Yay!
And he texted me a very important question.
Okay.
Right? Very important question. And I wanted to answer this because I feel like, there's like so many different ways that you can answer this question. So many different ways that, you can just give. Let me just jump right into it, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
What's the question, Nee?
So it says, what's going on, boss? Do you think it's wise to get a financial advisor through Northwestern Mutual? I met this guy at the Black Psychiatrists of America conference, and for residents, one option is $50 per month for financial planning.
I know your answer.
You know my answer is going to be...
Run, Forrest! Run!
Yes, sir. Bit me directly in the buttocks.
So before we answer this, I want to give my experience first with...
yes, give your experience.
Money.
Your experience runs into my experience.
Well, so when I started working as a resident, I was at Morehouse. I was doing mental math with my money. This is the first time I got a salary, and I was splitting it between my mortgage on my house, the utilities for the house, and then,
miscellaneous
transportation and miscellaneous. And then hoping by the end of the month that I did not overdraft, and then rinse, wash, and repeat, do the same thing again. I didn't invest any money into any brokerage account. I didn't invest any money into the, my program's, retirement account or anything like that. And I'll get into that later. I didn't have any type of emergency fund. I was not very smart with my money. I'll just leave it to you like that. And then once I got into fellowship, I met somebody through Northwestern Mutual who was telling me, actually, I met them at a party. Right?
There you go.
This is at Miami.
There you go.
Yo, we need symbols that show like red flags and shit. But
Alfred, hit us up with something. Do something.
Jesus Christ. It's a guy I met at a party.
Hit the red flags or something.
Yeah, like, I don't know, but I should basically the point of this story is I hooked up with someone from Northwestern Mutual, and I thought that everything that they were telling me, which was, listen, number one thing is you need to get whole life insurance. Mm-hmm. Number two is you need to get disability insurance. And then eventually, once we get you to a certain point, then, I'd like to be in charge of managing your money and so forth. And young, naive me, I fell for it, right?
Yeah.
And I got a whole life insurance plan, which basically means that I'm protected for my entire life. If something were to happen to me, there's a certain amount of money that's going to be paid to my beneficiaries. There's whole life and then there's term insurance. And someone like me who had no dependents.
You weren't married at the time.
Nobody was really depending on me. I probably at most, probably needed term life, but really didn't really need life insurance at that point, right? I did need some disability insurance. But what I found out was that Northwestern Mutual is one of the most expensive companies to sell disability insurance.
So you just putting them out on Front Street today. Because usually you don't say that.
Well, I'm just speaking the truth right now, right? Speaking the truth. And yeah, so I bought into their plan. And the other thing is I didn't know how I was paying this dude, right? It's just all I know is that on a monthly basis.
Getting paid. You just didn't know how.
On a monthly basis, I'm just paying my premiums for whole life as well as premiums for my disability insurance. And basically the way how it was sold to me or explained to me with disability insurance is you need disability insurance to protect you if you have any type of injury that prevents you from being able to, in essence, use your hands or use your surgical skills, work as a doctor for 90 days plus. Mm-hmm. And it's better than what you have as your group, what you have at your hospital's disability insurance that is covering everybody, that you don't even have to say no to. It's there for everybody. It's better than that because when you decide to leave,
when you graduate,
that's it. It goes with you, the one that you're paying for.
Right.
The one that you're not paying for, that. So anyway, I signed up for it. I was paying a grip for that. And then almost when we started, when we got engaged and got married, I think I convinced you to get.
You convinced me even before we got engaged.
To do what? Whole life insurance, right?
Hook up with your same, insurance disability guy. And I started down that path as well.
And you asked questions, and I remember I wasn't able to answer all the questions very well.
Yeah, you weren't. But
because I didn't know it. Because a lot of stuff is really complicated.
I know, but I didn't really ask poignant questions because I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know what to ask. My questions didn't start coming actually until after we got married, which at that point I was in the plan for at least 2 years. And when we got married, that's when I started realizing, I was like, hold on a second. We never changed our beneficiaries for our life insurance.
Yo, when a woman starts asking questions, I'm telling you, and you ain't got the answers.
And
I don't have the answers.
It was bad because at that point, I think was right at the point at which we started realizing that we were living paycheck to paycheck. And we were like, we got to do something. And I remember saying to you that our insurance plans, so the whole life insurance and the disability insurance plans, were making me very nervous because we were putting a lot of money towards them, and I wasn't quite sure exactly
how it worked out.
What we were getting,
what was the benefit
out of it.
Like right. I could tell you, it's like a bank and all that stuff, but when it came down to the specifics, like what does that mean? It was
right.
And we weren't making a dent in our student loan debt.
Right. Exactly. So
long story short, guys, is we just started down this path of just learning more about our life insurance, learning more about disability insurance. And straight to the point, we just realized that we were paying way too much. And
we were paying more monthly to our life and disability insurance than we were to our student loans.
Yeah, and that didn't seem right. Seem right. This is before PSLF, y'all. So we were just like, this is not right. Something has to change. And like, no surprise, the person who was working at, Northwestern Mutual, they weren't really happy for us to have this type of conversation, because we were like, listen, like, we got to change something. You got to give us like a lower plan. We got to get something. You got to decrease something so that we could put some more money towards whatever we need to do. But what he said to us was correct, but also shocking, which is, y'all need to budget better. Right? Y'all need to budget better. And he was right about that.
And we budget his ass right out.
Yeah. Once we figured out the whole, like,
we're like, you know what? We do need to budget better. And the first expense that's going to go is you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because during that whole process of talking with him, figuring out what we're going to do with our budget, we started realizing that there was some products that we were buying or that I had purchased and that I convinced you to purchase that just wasn't right for us at that time.
Right.
We didn't need a whole life plan at that time. We didn't need that type of disability insurance at that time. So it really changed my perspective on things, and it really had me thinking a certain way, like, damn, like, nobody's going to care about your money as much as you.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like I tell my pregnant women, don't nobody love your baby more than you do.
And I almost started the next process with this person, which was, you can start investing money into a quote unquote brokerage account, which he would have managed. And I don't think that it would have been favorable for us. That's the way I look at it. That's my opinion. It may be different for y'all and so forth. So for me, I've always stayed away from Northwestern Mutual for that reason. We moved ourselves away from that. But to answer this question, right, from Dr. Percy, which is, I met this guy at the Black Psychiatrists of America conference, and for residents, one option is $50 per month for financial planning. The gist of his question basically is, me transitioning, going into becoming a first-year resident, do I need a financial advisor, right? Do I need a financial advisor? And my gut, if you were to ask me straight up, and to be honest with you, I'm going to say no. I don't think you need one immediately.
At this time.
I don't think you need one. If you're in the process of moving down to your spot right now, I think right now, like, my suggestion, let me take a look at my notes. My suggestions are, I don't think you need anything, like absolutely need something right now. The only thing that you need right now is you need your salary. You need a little bit of some cash right now so that you can get, a house or an apartment or some transportation. I think that's the top priorities right now, which is, you got to get yourself a place to live, right? And the big thing is you're transitioning from going from student loans to now having a salary. And for a lot of y'all, this is the first time that's ever occurred. Which for me, I had a job like when I was in my early 20s.
Salary.
No, not a salary, but we're talking about first job.
Right.
So this wasn't my first job. That wasn't your first job.
Right.
But for a lot of people go in medical school, this is their first job.
Their first job.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. So for me, I think the number one thing that you need to figure out is where you're going to live, and it needs to be reasonable, right? Where you're going to live. I would say rent. Don't buy unless you know the neighborhood really well. And even then, it's like buying a place, you don't even know how your residency is going to go after your first year. Maybe consider it after your first or second year. But I would definitely say rent, and then try to find some place that's kind of close to where you're going to be working at, if you can. Then you're going to need transportation. You're either going to get a
Hoopty?
That's what you had. You had a hoopty.
I did have a hoopty.
Right. What'd you have?
Nissan Stanza.
What year?
1991.
And this was, you had it since 2002.
Since 2003.
And how long?
2002.
What
You're
you
right.
talking about? You came to school with
2002.
that. And you had it till?
And I had it till 2008.
How much you pay for that joint?
$900.
It had a radio?
It had a radio.
Air conditioner?
It had air conditioning.
ABS?
Probably not.
Airbags?
No, definitely did not have airbags. But it got me to where I need to go. What I would say that your biggest thing at this point in your life, moving from medical school to residency, is getting comfortable with your money. Getting comfortable managing your money, getting comfortable knowing exactly where your money is going, where you're spending it, how you're saving it, just getting comfortable getting paid. Right.
But
so you're going to do all of those things that you
I see what you're saying, but what does that mean, comfortable? Because that comfort comes from...
I'm still talking, so that's why you don't know what I'm talking about, because you interrupted me.
All right, go ahead.
So all of those things that you just said basically culminate in being comfortable with knowing exactly what to do with your money. And the reason that I'm talking kind of 30,000 foot view is because the notion of getting a financial planner, right, might be that you're not comfortable yet with your money.
Right.
Right? Like there's a mindset behind this. So when you're looking for, the place to live, the place to rent, when you're looking for, what car, when you're going to pay your utilities, how much you're going to pay, all these kinds of things, the whole gist of that is you got to be comfortable getting paid and putting the money where it's supposed to go.
I think looking back, I think what you're saying basically is what you're saying is, look, y'all, like, you can't pay someone to hold your hand with this. Like, you can eventually, but you got to figure this out on your own.
Right. You have to know when you need help.
And it's not hard at first, right? Because you don't have that many things going on. So what we're breaking it down is look, housing, utilities, transportation, and in essence, student loans. Mm-hmm. That's it. Those are the 4 things that you really got to focus on a monthly basis. Yeah. And to be honest with you, your student loans, you ain't got to worry about for the first 6 months.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So live, transportation, utilities.
And loans.
How you going to take the girls out?
Okay. Yeah.
Drinks.
That's if they're single and ready to mingle.
Okay, but you still have miscellaneous money that you can
right,
that you can
miscellaneous.
Figure out, right?
But that's the thing, right? Is that you have to be comfortable with
bottle service.
It's kind of like, think about it like this, right? When you are a doctor, okay, you have to call for a consult, but you don't call for a consult when you don't know what you're calling a consult for, right? So you've got to be able to examine and evaluate. And then figure out, well, what exactly is the problem that I'm trying to solve? Because once you figure out, well, what is the problem that I'm trying to solve, then you know which consultant to come in, right, to ask. And then you know what you should be asking this consultant. But, if you just, well, I have money and I want a financial advisor, it's like, well, what's your problem? Like, what problem are you trying to solve? Because the problem that they're going to see is, oh, you obviously don't have all the places where you could be spending your money because I'm one of these places. And so we'll just add that to your budgetary line.
Yeah, I ain't gonna front. $50 a month is not bad. But
it's not bad, but
I think there's there's hidden costs that's with there. You might be paying higher for something else where you're not sure. You're paying for something.
Yep.
And that might be a higher disability insurance plan or
because ain't nobody taking $600 to manage your money.
It might be
per year.
So
like that's no.
This is what I would say. I would say this is like number one step is once you figured out where you're going to live and all that stuff, I think you got to put some money away. You got to stash it in an online savings account. One of them joints. I don't know. I'm not going to list it, but you go to NerdWallet, and one of those online savings accounts, or if you got one, put like 3 to 6 months of expenses away if you can. 3 to 6 months, just expenses, right?
Right.
So how you going to pay?
Not the whole paycheck.
How you going to pay for the light bill, the electric bill? How you going to pay for rent? This is just in case something happens. If you got your hoopty and your hoopty breaks down, you just want to try to make sure that you're not trying to go back to your credit cards to do this, or it's not going to put you in financial ruin.
Yeah.
Right. So you can just go to that bank account real quick and be like, yo, like the tire busted. I need to be able to use that cash to pay that off. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So use that first 6 months.
Yeah. That's
where
your buffer.
You don't have to pay student loans. Pay yourself a student loan. A student loan payment towards your emergency fund.
Yeah.
That might be the start of your emergency fund.
And then after that, I would sign up like during that first week or during the orientation week. I think it's really important that you go to Human Resources and you sign up for some type of automatic investing plan at your program. It may be called a 403B or a 401k. Some of them call them cash savings plans. Basically, this is you.
Is there like a 407 457 or
457, I think.
457, something like that. There's another one. Yeah.
These are all programs where basically you're taking a little bit out of your paycheck and you're putting it towards retirement, right? So when you hit that magic number of 65, this money would have grown to a point where you can start living off of it, right? And the reason why you want to start doing that now is for every little bit that you put away now, it decreases how much you have to pay in taxes right now, right? So if you can get away with like, I don't know, putting away 10% or 5% of your paycheck into one of these plans and then invest it. We'll talk about that later on. Don't even worry about it. Just listen to the concept of what I'm saying. If you can get away with like 5% of your salary just going into one of these accounts, you're decreasing your tax bill, so that you don't have to pay too much at the end of the year, right? That's one thing to consider. And then also you're signing up for a disability insurance plan that is going to be at your program. We call that group disability, right? That's just in case something catastrophic happens to you, right? You're going to sign up for health insurance, right? And depending on, if you're single or what your family structure is, if you're single, you're probably going to sign up for something that's called a high deductible plan. And that's basically the thought process is you're so healthy, you're probably not going to use the healthcare system much. So your bill, your premium on a monthly basis that you pay to get health insurance is low, right? And there's some benefits that we could talk about later on, but one of them is you get access to a health savings account. You could put money in there also, and that decreases your tax bill. But without making you go too crazy, like these are things that you go to your human resources department and you ask them, what's up with the investing plan that you have for us, for residents? And then talk to me about disability. And then talk to me about healthcare and all that. Like, let's talk real quick about that. Right. And then what I would start doing is once you get all of that stuff done, hopefully you've gotten that stuff done in the first 2 months, 3 months, you're starting to get comfortable with your money. Then I would start doing some research because you still got to work, right? You still got to deal with some, your attendings. You got to deal with your upper levels, giving you a hard time. You got to get there at 5 a.m. You got to leave at 6 p.m. You got to make food. You got to do all these different things. It's tough. It's a lot. It's a lot. And now, so I would just say start doing a little bit of some research on student loans. That's what I would say. Start doing some research on student loans, how you're going to start making some payments and so forth. And then, if you get to a point where you're like, I need like additional help, I would say student loan planner is a good place to start. Like we had Travis Hornsby. We had Travis Hornsby on our show. He does a really good job of that. Right. And that's like 6 steps that I listed for you right there. And when you're working with student loan planner, like they're helping you to identify if you qualify for PSLF. Right. That's the plan where, you basically make consecutive payments for 10 years. If you can make consecutive payments for 10 years at a minimum amount, they are going to relieve a whole bunch of your student loan debt. And for a lot of y'all listening right now, we thought we was dying with $242,000 of student loan debt. Y'all are graduating with $400,000. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So, we paid ours off, straight cash. But I don't know nowadays if that's a viable option.
I mean, it's always a viable option. The question is whether or not it's necessary.
Would you do it, though? Let me ask you a question. If you had an opportunity to do things again, but it's now, like let's say you were graduating from medical school in 2015 and you're listening to us now.
I would have to see how many years I would have to work before I could get my student loans paid off because I did work at a nonprofit.
Let's say you had like 5 years left.
5 years?
Yeah. Would you stay at your first job for 5 years?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if it were tolerable.
Yeah, I mean, you could do anything, right? You went to medical school, you went to residency.
Well, medical school was tolerable. Well, residency wasn't.
But for a lot of people, medical school is tough for a lot of people, but they deal with it, though.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But you had fun in medical school.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Right? A lot of people don't have, there are people who don't have that type of fun.
Yeah.
In school, residency can be a beast,
fun.
So,
yeah. Well,
your first year was tough.
The first year was tough. After that, it was actually pretty good.
My 5 years were tough. I didn't have anybody on my ass like you did, but it was just tough.
Yeah.
But I think that starting with those points, which is like just focus on your living, how you're going to eat, your utilities. Then after that, focus on putting some money away for a rainy day fund. Then do some automatic investing, go to your human resources department, and then start doing some research go to a expert on that. I think that's an amazing start.
Yeah.
And then if you feel like, okay, I'm like 7-8 months in, or I'm like a year into this, which I think is the best place, or 2 years in, then maybe you could start considering a fee-only advisor. So
even then, I don't know if I would in residency, especially if we're talking about kind of the prototypical single resident, nothing has changed with your situation. You haven't added any dependents, nothing. Like, at that point, I don't think I would. I think, honestly, I would still be using those years in residency.
If you got a girlfriend, though, or...
What, a girlfriend is not a dependent?
Could be the way how they act.
How do they act?
You know how you was acting.
I don't know how I was acting, me. First of all, half the time in residency, we wasn't even together. Yeah, so I'll put your business out on Front Street.
So I reached out to our financial advisor. I'm not going to say who it is, but our financial advisor is fee only. And I wrote to her and I asked a question about this question. And it says, I could be wrong, but I feel like resident and fellows don't think they can afford a financial advisor that's not selling them insurance. I've had a lot of conversations with resident and fellows where I've quoted 2 payments of $1,500, so $3,000 total, 3 stacks, y'all. And I've had 90% not move forward and only like 10% move forward. I've referred some of them to, we just mentioned Student Loan Planner, so they can at least get a better idea of what student loan payment plan they should get set up on, whether or not they might qualify for PSLF, right? That's some nuggets right there, major key alert. Yeah. I feel like getting a quality fee-only financial planner in residency or training, even if it's just for a one-time financial plan, would help with setting up a good budget, opting into the program's group DI if possible, and
disability insurance is
right,
DI. Mm-hmm.
And making sure there's a future increase option. Know what to look for in their first contract, including knowing whether the upfront payment is actually a repayable loan, and talking through anything else they're concerned about. So based off of that perspective, I think they probably are thinking towards the end.
Yes.
Towards the end.
So that I would be comfortable with. Hiring a financial planner to basically start managing your money.
You got to be careful of that.
I think you need to be very careful.
Watch them ESPN documentaries, y'all.
Getting a snapshot.
There's a reason why athletes be broke, man.
Well, getting a snapshot consultation from someone, I think is reasonable, right? To be like, hey, just wanted to get your quick opinion about X, Y, and Z. Can we set up a consultation? Let me just tell you what I was, thinking about, what I'm doing currently, so that way I feel like I'm prepared once I start making that 6-figure salary and, maybe have a little bit more on my plate to manage. I think that that's reasonable, and that's coming from a financial planner. So yeah, I don't think that hiring someone to manage you is the way to go, but having a consultation, I think, is reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I wrote back to them. I said, I don't think you need to get one at this point, particularly since you're transitioning into getting that job. You don't even know if you're going to have any extra pay, extra money to do that. And I do think that you still need to budget in like fuck around money, right? Like how I'm going to have fun with friends, because everything, hold up. Hold up.
I told you keep cursing on the podcast.
Everything is a priority.
I'll be on LinkedIn.
Right? Everything is a priority. And you need to be able to just say, hey, listen, like, as much as I'm putting money away for the important things, I also need to know that I could put money away for things that aren't like for me to have fun. That's a priority
absolutely.
Also. Right?
Recreation can be in your budget. Recreation should be in your budget. And frankly, if you are not putting some sort of recreation in your budget, I don't care if you put in, how much is a movie ticket now?
No, it's probably like $20. $20,000.
Right? $20,000 for a movie ticket.
Yeah. It sound like it. It feel like it might be, right?
So even if you put $20 to go see a movie without any popcorn, I think you need to put in recreation into your budget. Anyone who thinks that a budget basically means that your money is on a diet is really looking at a budget the wrong way. That is not how budgets work. Your money is not on a diet. You are just knowing where the money is going, where it's being spent, what the priority is that you have in your life, and that's what a budget is.
Yo, good question, Dr. Percy.
Thanks for the question.
Depending on how y'all feel, yo, text us. Let us know. 833-230-2860.
I want to know if anybody has gotten a financial planner or advisor while they were in residency.
If you were going to do this again, would you get a financial advisor
not in residency. No.
You would just wait till afterwards?
Yeah.
Do you think you was good with your money?
I think I was okay, but I obviously had a ways to go. I wasn't wasteful with my money.
You were better than me, I tell you that right now.
I wasn't wasteful, but I didn't really understand.
I feel like girls are better than money.
I didn't understand how money worked.
What do you mean you don't understand how money worked? Because you was it's not like you came in. You didn't come in
spend.
But you didn't come in as okay.
That's all I understood. Save and spend.
Okay,
invest was not even like I knew investment existed, but I never considered it an option for me.
Why is that?
I just didn't. It wasn't something that I thought about. It just wasn't something.
And you came in older
that came
too.
to mind. I wasn't that much older, Neat. Damn.
But you were older.
Okay.
You was listen.
What is the next topic, Neat?
I'm just saying, as a non-traditional student,
you were a non-traditional student to me.
I was. I came in with a certain amount. I came in with a certain amount of expertise and information, and you came in with a bit more. Is that fair to say?
No.
So you didn't have a 401k at your job?
No.
What'd you have?
If we did have a 401k, I was not part of it. That's it.
Weren't you like driving dollar cabs?
Anyway.
They didn't have a plan?
Oh, my Lord. What's the next topic? When is this podcast episode going to be over?
Everybody, 833-230-2860. Let us know what you think.
Tell us what you think about this damn banter. That's what I want to know.
They love this banter.
I think it's making people feel very uncomfortable, Nee.
Why is that?
I'm uncomfortable.
Why are you uncomfortable?
What's the next topic, Nee?
Well, anyway, guys, I wasn't good with my money. So y'all see that. If I was to do this again, I would not hire a financial advisor, maybe towards the end of residency. But to be honest with you, I'd just wait till afterwards. I would follow those steps. I'd make sure my money's right on my own. And that's what I would do.
I might have gotten a consultation. That's as far as I might have gone. Yeah.
I definitely would have done a student loan consultation.
Like my last year.
I definitely would have done a student loan consultation. Because I just, at this point right now, I feel like there's a lot of information out there, not only from our podcast, but other podcasts and blogs and so forth, that I think you can get a really good start on doing things on your own without making too many big mistakes. And then eventually, like you said, if you need a consultation later on down the line, that person, that fee-only advisor is there for you. So that's how I feel.
Cool.
So I would have had a little bit more ducats if, but most of my money was going to entertain you. That's what it was.
How, Nee? We didn't live in the same city. Wrong girl.
Flying to see you.
Wrong girl.
Yo, Alfred, edit that out.
What was the meme that we saw? Or the video? Was it a reel?
What's that?
The guy was like, do you remember?
No.
When the guy was like, anytime I remember something that my girl doesn't remember, she goes, wasn't me. Must have been another woman.
Come on, yo. Chill out, yo.
Must have been your side chick. Must have been your other girl.
Speaking about awkward situations.
What?
Let's jump into. We saw that. I watched that concert yesterday with Kendrick Lamar's pop-up concert in Los Angeles.
Oh, Lord.
Damn. They not like us 5 times? Yo, he don't like Drake. Everybody, go back to our previous a couple of episodes before where we talked about, that beef. Here's what I think about. What is it like to have, what would it be like to go through Eminem or to have your biggest critic in residency or even as an attending be the best at their job or the most written the most chapters be your biggest ops? Because that's what Drake's going through, right? His biggest ops is literally the best rapper out there right now, if not one of the best ever. Has a lot of money. So what I'm equating it to you is what if your biggest ops in medicine was someone who is well written, gone to conferences, all of these different things. Like, how do you counteract that?
I'm not like them. I'm not like them. I'm not like them.
Hey, hell, hold on a second, because don't get us jumped, please.
I'm not like them.
If you don't know the West Coast dances, come on.
I ain't doing no West Coast dances.
But that concert was amazing.
We're already wearing blue. So.
That concert was amazing. We saw it on, what do you call it, on YouTube, because I think it was on Amazon or something like that, but it was great. It was great. Loved it. Listen, let's jump into something that we probably should have talked about several months ago.
Yes, this is old news, but always relevant news.
Doctors, nurses walk out on strike at Ascension St. John in Detroit.
That was in April.
Yeah, this was in April. Wearing their white coats and blue scrubs, some with stethoscopes still draped around their necks. ER docs, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants at Ascension St. John Hospital in Detroit walked off the job, striking against what they say are unfair labor practices that put patients at risk. Right? The union, which is the Greater Detroit Association of Physicians, filed an intent to organize with the National Labor Relations Board in May, and have been working without a contract since they organized. The group of 43 doctors, physician assistants, are employed by Team Health, which is contracted to manage. Okay, you guys know what Team Health does, right?
They may not know what Team Health does.
All right, Team Health, basically, they are the ones, what does this article say?
Staffing.
They own the... Team Health
owned.
Team Health basically provides the staffing to the hospital, and then the doctors work for Team Health. You get it? Hospital pays Team Health pays the doctors.
But Team Health is actually owned by a private equity firm called Blackstone. Yes.
So anyway, what the doctors are saying is understaffing and poor working conditions have created an unsafe staffing situation in the emergency department, which has led to excessively long wait times for patients in need of care. Right? Yep. And they say some workers carried sign that says no more profits over patients. And Team Health said it worked with Ascension St. John to ensure that emergency. Okay, you guys know where this is going.
So
right?
basically,
so the question is no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, so I read another article. You're reading one article now, but I read another article, which is a really short summary of everything that happened. So what it says is that this strike was only a 24-hour strike. So I don't think that the intention was to strike until they reached an agreement. I think it was to show you need us. All right? You need us. Obviously, there was coverage. I don't know how well the ER was covered.
Is that a waste of time?
I think
that's like telling your kid, "Listen, I'm going to turn the TV off if you keep throwing stuff against the wall."
You turn it off for 5 minutes and then turn it back on.
I'm gonna do this if you keep putting your hands, putting paint on your hands and putting it on the wall. I'm gonna do that, and then you just never do it. Like I wonder if that's the same.
Well,
thing.
but they did it. They just did it for a very short stint.
Did they reach a deal?
So, based on the article I read, they had not necessarily reached a deal. So herein lies my problem, not with the strike itself.
Okay, what is your problem?
My problem is that the fight, I think that doctors, practitioners have lost so much respect that you can actually have a staffing company, right? You can be telling a staffing company, hey, these conditions are dangerous for patients because we have to see so many patients an hour. The patient wait time is through the roof. All of these things are outdated in terms of equipment. And the staffing company can have the nerve and the authority to go, no, it's not. Like, how? How is that possible? Right? Because the doctors, the other practitioners, we're the ones that are actually working. So what Team Health did was when the doctors...
Look at Dr. Renee doing this investigative journalism. I love it.
When the doctors said,
go ahead,
hey, wait times are exorbitantly long. Patients can wait, 15 hours, right? Or, we have to see, I don't know, let's say we have to see 10 patients in an hour. Team Health came back and was like, that's not true. Because when we averaged it out, well, shit, if you average anything out.
There you go, cursing again on this podcast.
Anyway, if you average anything out, the numbers always look good, right? Like, but this is not only about numbers, right? So team health is so caught up on, no, your numbers are wrong, that they are forgetting about the impact. There's impact behind those numbers, right? So maybe in the last 5 days, the wait wasn't 15 hours, but on those 3 days that the wait was 15 hours, you had a patient whose troponins were going through the roof, but you didn't see them until they went completely through the roof. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, the impact. You can't just approach patient care with numbers. Like that is completely, well, of course you can. You can, but you shouldn't.
Because it's happening right now.
Right. You can do that, but it is extremely irresponsible. And I think that these private equity firms, these, staffing agencies or whatever, I'm like, you got the nerve to go and bring up numbers, right? Because we're trying to speak your language with numbers, but we have context behind our numbers. You don't have any context behind your numbers. Like, that's ridiculous. And to average things out, I'm like, it's just totally irresponsible. Hold on one second. Because on the day that the 15-hour wait actually exists and one person gets hurt, then what team health does is they average out everything and go, yeah, but only 15% of people who were diagnosed with a myocardial infarction died. Like, hold on a second. That's still 15% of people. Like,
but this is look. That's
irresponsible.
Business. This is widgetization.
Basically,
right? This is like, it's different, right? Like when you are making a TV and you know that there's certain types of products that can go into the TV, and sometimes there's going to be some of the products that break. You're like, okay,
and blow up in your face.
Break. It's just the TV, right? Or whatever it is that you're making that can be manufactured and put in your house. Like there's a certain cost to make that product, and there's going to be a certain cost that you lose making that product. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about someone's life, to me, I find it very difficult to look at that the same way, but it is.
People
and
do.
I think the biggest issue for docs at this point right now is you got a status quo. What you gonna do about the status quo? Because the I hear everything you're saying, everything you're saying about it being ridiculous, it being whatever bad adjective that you want to apply to that. It doesn't stop the fact that it still is going on right now, and ultimately, I think it's up to doctors. I was shocked that he got doctors, physician assistants, and nurse practitioners, which is actually telling because they all, for the most part, looked at themselves as just employees on the same level, I'm assuming, and just said, we're just going to walk out.
Right.
Which is something that you don't normally see, right? Normally, you'll probably see maybe nurse practitioners or for the physician assistants, they're going to go.
Yeah,
but
divide.
I don't know if you're really going to see the doctors do it. So I was very interested that I saw that. That stood out to me. I was like, So I do think that, the question is how long are docs going to stand on the status quo in order to see some type of change? Because if you just going to complain about this and we're just going to say it's ridiculous and this and that, and what have you, nothing's going to change. Right? Nothing is going to change. Right. And if we feel like this is a bad way of practicing medicine, then you have to do something to take yourself out of that situation. And it may not just be individually, it has to be as a group. You got to do something to change the playing field so that it can go back. I don't know if it should go back to the way how it was, but it just has to be a new frontier where, we are, as professionals, providing care where it makes sense for the patients, but also at the same time, it's financially viable for the hospital, right? Because it has to be financially viable also for it to make sense also.
Absolutely.
So that's the way I look at it. It's like, look, what are y'all doing to stop the status quo? And I do think a one-day strike, I don't know if that's really...
Yeah, I don't know that that's really going to be really helpful. But I think also that, our generation, the generations after us, don't actually know how it was before. And I think that is part of the problem, right? Like they don't actually know how it was before because they weren't in it, right? That's kind of like, if I tell my niece, about the rotary phone, she's looking at me like, what are you talking about? Like,
I think we did a video on that a long time ago.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what do you mean a rotary phone? Like, how is that, right? What do you mean a Dewey Decimal System? What you actually went and looked at small index cards and tried to find a library? It's like, yes, like that's how you looked for a library book, right? What's an encyclopedia? Right? My son asked me the other day, what's an encyclopedia? When I was his age at 7, I knew what an encyclopedia was. He doesn't know what an encyclopedia was, right? So I think that the advantage that many of these companies, agencies, firms, the advantage that they have is that the generation is ignorant. Well, they're ignorant to what this looked like before. And so it becomes a new way of doing medicine, of practicing medicine, when it's like, nah, actually, this was the old way.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Because I think if you have the old way of doing things is doctors never striked.
No, I'm not talking about
Hold
that.
on, let me finish my point. The old way of doing things is that doctors never striked.
Right.
Now you have a new age of physicians coming out, and they're used to working as employees. Mm-hmm. And what do employees do when they get together and they realize that they're not getting a good deal? They strike. You know,
I get that.
So what I'm saying is you actually might end up getting the opposite effect. You actually might end up getting more change when you have a whole new crop of doctors who don't understand what it's like to be, you know, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and however long. And doctors don't strike. Doctors just take care of patients and all that stuff. You might start seeing a bunch of doctors say, you know what? Here's my picket line. I'm jumping on the picket line and I'm staying here for 20 days, 30 days.
I get that.
So
but
that's one thing to consider.
I think the one thing that hasn't changed, though, is the physician guilt, right? Which is why when they said that they were striking, I was like, wait, what? And so when I looked at the article, I was like, oh, okay, it's only for 24 hours. I get it, and I understand why.
Yeah, there's gradations to this, right?
Right. This was never going to be like, we're just going to hold out until you give us what we want. This was never going to be that. And I think that the physician guilt is what doesn't change. But I think the structure of practice, or the way in which doctors worked with hospitals, definitely has changed so much and looks so different than what it used to look like, right? Before, it was a lot of private doctors who essentially contracted with hospitals independently, were not at all employed by these hospitals, but just had a collaborative agreement to say, I will generate the patients and I will bring my patients to your hospital and you will credential me there so that I can work with my patients, treat my patients, evaluate my patients at your hospital when necessary. Right? So hence, like, you know, when people used to have major medical, right? And they didn't used to have like just regular insurance for primary care. It was just major medical. So things look so different now that I think this new generation doesn't even know that that's the way that it used to look. Primarily, they see snippets of it with little private practices here and there, but with all the private practices being bought out, now a private practice is not really a private practice anymore.
Yeah.
Most private practices look like they belong to the hospital.
So I think in order to really give, we're going to have to probably talk about this on another episode to finish it out. Because apparently Team Health got the boot recently from that hospital. There's more specifics that we got to go into. So we'll come back to this show, or we'll come back to this topic on a different episode.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really interesting. If you work at one of those hospitals, you're one of the doctors there, or if you're one of the other nurse practitioners, shout us out. Text us at 833-230-2860. Let us know, what's going on. We'd love to talk, yo. See what you got to say. So that's actually interesting. This topic that we talked about with the doctors striking, I think that's a natural segue into an article that I read. It was from the Darwinian doctor. It's a post called
The Evolutionary Doctor. My income as a
locum tenens physician, right?
Yeah.
And in essence, he shared the specific details on his income as a locum tenens physician working 7 days a month. So, urologist, works only 7 days a month, bringing in $400,000 a year, which from the outside looking in sounds pretty sweet, right? He talks about kind of transitioning from being a employed urologist where he was making, I think, close to about 600,000, maybe even higher than that. And then when he switched to being, he used to make around $600,000 a year as a full-time employed urologic surgeon in Southern California. So he's saying this year, working 7 days a month as a locum tenens urologist, he expects to make about $400,000. These numbers are pre-tax, and he gives a behind-the-scenes discussion about what it's like, quitting his job, transitioning to a locum's job. And then he talks about like what happened when he found his first locum job, then his second locum job, then his third locum jobs. And as he's going from each job, the pay is starting to increase. And then as he's, not only is the pay starting to increase, he's getting more comfortable negotiating that, listen, like, I want to get more pay for more work. And, once he realizes that, once he even goes back and gets more pay, he's like, this work is even more. I'm negotiating even more for you. That's how he was able to really optimize the amount of time that he's away. So he says that basically at locum tenens job number 3, he's there for 7 days. And his starting rate at this job was $2,400 for an 8-hour day. And then $250 overtime. So in essence, what that means is for $2,400, he is available for 8 hours a day. Anything that comes through for 8 hours a day, that's rounding on patients, that's operating on patients, that's going to the ED to see patients, that is all covered during that first $2,400. Right. Then let's say he worked there for 8 hours and he starts getting phone calls from the ED after 8 hours on hour 9, hour 10, 11, 12. He's starting to pick up $250 an hour for every time that he has to be in a hospital after that. Yeah. So he's talking about, like, with all of that, he went back, renegotiated, and got it up to $4,200 for an 8-hour day. So he went from $2,400.
He was like, "Oh, I got those first two numbers wrong."
To $4,200 for an 8-hour day, and then for overtime, $300.
Right.
And for you all, you may be like, "Damn, like that's a big jump," which it is. That's a big jump. And he also goes in and he talks about why, this actually works not only for him, but also works for the hospital. So what he's saying also is that he was able to cut out locum tenens companies, and he was able to work directly with the hospital. And he stayed working as a locum tenens, but what he ended up finding out is he kept more of his money, and the hospital ended up paying less because they were paying him directly as opposed to paying a middleman.
That's right.
Right. So that ended up working for him. And like, there's more details in this that we just can't talk about this. And I'll put the link in the show notes, but
you can read it.
Initial thoughts. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think this is great, right? I mean, first of all, kudos to him for the transparency. That's number one.
Yo, doctors are not transparent about this. So that was really good that he did.
Yeah. So kudos to him for being so transparent. And 2, kudos to him for showing the progression, right? And not just starting at the end where he just says, well, I get paid $4,200. It's like, oh, okay. And then people think like that's just the way it's supposed to be.
And then they get their first, pay rate and it's like, oh, you get $2,400. It's like, but wait. That's like half of what this guy was talking about.
Right. So I like that. And I also like the fact that he essentially talks about not just the progression, but the fact that he went back and was renegotiating. So he went back and gave a rate, right? Because we talked about this. We were talking with someone earlier about, just kind of the locum tenens landscape and how it's so different from the employed landscape, right? In the employed landscape, the employer says, hey, this is how much I'm willing to pay you, right, to work for me. Whereas if you're a locums person, the locums doc is actually the one who's supposed to give the rate. This is how much I think that my work is worth, right? That's what it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? Because if you have a plumber who comes to your house, you're not going to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to pay you.
And the plumber's an independent contractor.
Right, is an independent contractor. You're not going to
or even a photographer at a wedding.
Right, exactly. You're not going to tell the photographer, this is how much I'm going to pay you. You ask, what is your rate? And so as a locums doc, we should be telling people what our rate is, not necessarily going to locums job boards and just looking at that rate that they say that they're willing to pay and think, oh, that's the rate that I have to take.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I think that, yes, we enjoy working as locums. Mm-hmm. We left for a certain reason, similar to what this doctor did.
Yeah.
But all of the ails, like I think a lot of people also think that being a locums doc is a panacea.
Right, it's not.
It's not. Like there's some issues with being a locums doc. You just got to know what it is. But just truth be told, just know that like you got to learn how to negotiate your own contracts. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to learn. And when you work as an employed doctor, the same thing, right? So you're going to have to learn how to develop the confidence to say no.
Right.
I need more because X, Y, and Z, and you have to be able to do that confidently.
Right.
So just saying that you're going to become a locums is not like everything's going to get cured for you. Here's actually a very interesting thing I want to tell you about, and it's similar to this topic, but last week I was in the doctor's lounge. I was talking to a neurosurgeon. He's working at the hospital as a locum tenens, providing care, and he is traveling from Philadelphia to this spot. He works there for about 7 to 14 days. More in the 7 to 10 days range. Mm-hmm. He's making a really good living. He's enjoying it. He's like a couple of years out of residency, and the hospital has asked him to become an employed doc.
As they always do.
Right. And he really enjoys it there. Mm-hmm. And he verbally said yes. Right. He verbally said yes. And he admitted, he's like, I'm not sure exactly why I said that. I really enjoyed here. And they're in the process of creating the contract right now. And I don't want to do it.
He needs to just say no.
But I verbally said yes.
It doesn't matter.
That's what he's caught up on. And I was like, listen,
just say
let me finish. But hold on, let me finish. So that's the thing. It's like, he's probably going to continue down that pathway of becoming employed, which is he said he didn't want to do. I didn't say that. He said he didn't want to do that because he thought initially it sounded okay, and then he started thinking about it, and as he's getting closer and closer and closer, he feels like he's giving up something, like he's giving up some form of leverage, some form of freedom, some form of independence for a guaranteed paycheck, because he thinks that there possibly could be some instability at that position. Mm. So he was like, man, what do I do? And I was like, man, like people pleasing on a 10th scale. Because that's what it looked like to me. Because look, there's a reason, guys, when you sign a contract, when you're working at a hospital, the majority of places are going to have you sign like a letter of intent. That's not even the contract, right?
Yeah, but a letter of intent is not binding.
I need you to follow where I'm going.
Where are you going?
Okay, so you sign a letter of intent, which is not binding, right? But what that does is it starts the engagement, quote unquote, between you and the hospital.
Yeah.
They start preparing the paperwork, which is in essence going to be your contract that you're going to have to sign with them, right? Mm-hmm. But even that signature that you make right there on that letter of intent is not binding. Mm-hmm. Nothing is sealed until you sign
the actual
contract, the agreement. And I'm just sitting there trying to talk to this dude. I'm like, why are you like so caught up because you told them yes?
I know why.
I want to hear why. Tell me why.
He's caught up because he thinks that if he says no, he will screw his chances to continue locums at that facility.
Explain. What do you mean by that?
Because
what do you mean by that? Because he's already working there as a locum.
Of course he is. But he may think that, well, now, if I say no, will they be so upset that they don't even ask me back as a locum?
Were you there? You must have been a fly on the wall, because that's what he said.
I know that I am sure that that's what he said, because that's what, I think the normal person would think.
Okay, so what would Dr. Renee do in that situation?
First of all, I wouldn't have never said yes.
Okay, but you did.
That's number one.
But you did.
But let's say by mistake I misunderstood and happened to say
you guys
yes.
ever notice that Dr. Renee never makes any mistake? She got the answer to everything. Everything is perfect. I would have never done this. I would have never done that. I would have never eaten the forbidden fruit. I would have never done this. I would have never, like, come on, man. Like, everything, you got you ain't do nothing wrong. You ain't make no mistakes.
I'm flawless.
Damn.
Anyway.
So let's say you had said yes. Take it from there.
So if
How are you going to
had said
recover?
yes,
How would you recover? Give advice to this person.
So I would set a meeting with whomever it is that I said yes to. And I would just tell him, I'm
not fucking leaving. Alfred, cue it in.
I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not fucking leaving. Yo, low key, that's a great movie. Wolf of Wall Street.
They're gonna have to get the National Guard
to get me out of there.
My chest is hurting now. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Oh my God, he's going crazy, y'all. You finished?
Quaaludes.
So I would set a meeting with the person to whom I said yes. And I would just sit down and say, hey, I've been thinking about, weighing the pros and cons of doing locums and doing employed work. And after considering everything, I think actually being a locums, I think you would actually get the best out of me. And that's where you got to
see. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying. What's it gonna be? Woo! Sometimes you just gotta pop up on these. So you gotta just tell them what? Tell them what? It's just,
so
you're gonna get the best out of me if I stay as an independent contractor.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna be happy.
Yes.
And you want a happy Dr. Nee. You want a happy neurosurgeon to come in and just be like, you know what? When I come in and I work, I get paid commensurate to what I do. I'm excited. I'm already giving you 2 weeks, maybe even more. Why y'all trying to mess that up? You don't want an unhappy neurosurgeon coming in.
So that's what I would say.
You say it like that?
Not like that, but essentially that's what I would say is that, you're going to get the best out of me being a locum tenens. I chose to be a locum tenens for specific reasons. And I've really enjoyed my time working here. I love working here with all of my colleagues and the nurses and everybody. And I think it makes for a really good dynamic, and it will allow me to do the best work that I possibly can. So I'd like to just kind of continue as a locum tenens doc. But Doc,
we can give you that freedom to do what you need to do. We know that you have other things that you want to do and so forth. Like, you give us the schedule, but all we need is like 14 days a month, and you will have, the rest of the time to do whatever you need to do. You don't even have to do it consistently. Like, we will work with your schedule. It just seems like it works better for us. And for you, you get all the benefits. Your kids get, all of this loan. They were going to do loan repayback. Mm-hmm. They don't know. He didn't know exactly how much it was going to be, but there's going to be loan repayback. There's going to be the benefits that you're going to get, health insurance, all these different things. Doc, come on. Talk to me.
I understand that.
Here's the contract.
Yeah, I don't want no contract. I understand that, but there are more reasons than the ones that you mentioned.
Oh yeah,
that
like
are more
what are the other
personal.
reasons?
That are more personal reasons.
Oh, can you tell us?
They're not going to ask you if you could tell. No, that are more personal reasons that I chose to do locums. No. That they're just more personal reasons that I chose to do locums. And there really isn't necessarily an offer that you could make me for those specific personal reasons, right? These are things that are really out of the hands of what a hospital administrator could offer in a contract or an agreement. And so, like I said, I think you would get the best out of me. There are other obligations, yes, that I have to my family. And I just need that
freedom.
No, I need I need that flexibility, not just at work, but I need that flexibility at home as well. And so there are just things, again, that are not going to be able to be covered in a contract. And before the relationship becomes contentious, because you are going to have expectations of me. And if I can't meet those expectations because of these other things that I have, then the relationship is going to be contentious. And it's not contentious right now. It's a very good relationship.
But employees,
and I'd like to keep it that way.
But employees get a 5% discount at the cafeteria.
Well, then sign me up.
So should we cancel? Because we have the realtor waiting outside to show you the neighborhood. All right, guys, I'm joking around, but listen. What she just said, that is a masterclass in how to literally say what's important to you, stand your ground, and just repeat despite what they have to say, even though they're going to throw in more things to sweeten the pot and so forth. If you really feel the way how that neurosurgeon felt, which is, I said yes initially, but I just don't want to do it. I just don't feel like doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to follow what's in here, and you got to be able to articulate that in a way, because I think when you articulate it that way, they're going to be disappointed. Just trust.
Right.
Trust.
And
they're going to be disappointed.
Be the first thing. So before we go on, right, this is from Chris Voss of Never Split the Difference. One of the things that he says,
the show.
He's not sponsoring the show, but he gets great advice. You've got to read this book, right? It's about negotiations. But one of the first things actually that I skipped that you actually should say first is, before you say anything at all, the first thing that you say is, you're not going to be happy with what I have to tell you. That way it prepares the person to know, okay,
I feel
you're
like
about
I've heard
to
this
give
from
me,
you multiple times.
You're going to give me bad news.
Have you tried that technique on me?
So you just want to say you're not going to be happy about what
What's
I have
for dinner
to tell
tonight?
You. You're not going to be happy about what I have to tell you. So that's actually the first thing you should say before you do that. And then you just say the thing.
Why is that? Why do you say that?
Because
what's the whole point of that?
People need a preparation, right? So you don't want to say it when you're setting the meeting necessarily, right? But you do want to say it at the outset of the meeting.
And doesn't that help you also? Because then you're like, okay, I got it out of the way.
I already got it out of the way.
Let me just start.
Without actually saying the thing.
Right.
I got it out of the way that I'm about to deliver bad news. So that's the first thing. You don't want to deliver this news over email. That is not the way. Okay?
I'll be doing that.
That is not the way.
Why not? Why can't you do it over email? Come on now.
It's very impersonal. People need to feel like
I can't front you. You be doing that stuff and like I got to do it over email, but I got to learn to do it over.
People need to feel like they had a chance.
Did we break up over email?
No, me. People need to feel like they got a chance to be able to say their piece.
You sure we didn't break up over email?
No, we've never broken up over email, me.
I could have swore I broke up with you over email.
You've never broken up with me. If you broke up with me over email, this would not be a thing.
Think I used Grammarly.
Okay.
Grammarly.com. I was like, I hovered over it. I was like, wait, is this sound right? Is this preposition okay here?
Anywho.
Am I assertive enough? But keep going. I'm sorry.
It's kind of like a letter, right? When you get a rejection letter from like the college that you really want to go to.
You really want them to call you?
I regret to inform you. What, you don't need to read the rest of the letter.
First of all, the fact that it's just one page.
To inform you.
It's one page.
Right? But yeah, you still don't want to do it over a letter.
Okay. All right. Keep it moving.
But yeah, no, but that's the only thing I was going to say is that you want to say, hey, you are not going to be happy about what I have to say. Verbatim, you could just say that. You're not going to be happy about what I have to say, but I'm going to have to decline the offer to be employed. And then you go on, I think you just get the best out of me as a locum doc. It's been going really, really well. I've enjoyed my time here. I'd like to continue on, but I have some other obligations that really just cannot be covered in an employee contract.
Do you address that you said yes first?
No. You just say the thing.
Just say it.
Just say the thing. Yeah. Because ultimately the answer is no.
And you bring up the meeting. Like, you don't wait till the contract comes out.
No, you don't.
For example,
don't do that. Don't do that. Don't wait until they bring the contract to you.
Why?
Because they've had their lawyers potentially looking at things, right? They've kind of talked.
Damn well they gave you, it came from that.
Yeah, it was a standard contract.
That PDF from 4 years ago.
I'm sure it is. But you don't know what other things that they've had in play, right? So you just...
Especially with they were saying that with student loan debt, they might be
right. They might actually be doing something.
They may give you like 5%.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I would not. I would just say the thing, and make the conversation about that. Because if you start with, well, I know I say yes at first, it's like, well, then you still thinking about yes. Just say no. The answer is no.
All right, to the neurosurgeon who's listening to what I said, then don't listen to what I said, because just listen to what she said. Because I told them to like go to Fiverr and get someone to write the letter for them and shit. And
you did not say that.
Send it by certified mail.
You did not do that, Nee. Stop.
And just make sure.
Why do you always
make
do
sure
that?
that
the fact that you can just tell a story that isn't true so freely makes me very nervous.
About what?
Just nervous. Very nervous. I don't know. Oh, I want to know, who the F did I marry? That's going to be the next series, part 3, because I guess there was a lady who did part 2 and
this
people
is
did
8
not
years.
like part 2.
This is into. I gotta. Speaking of this
8
potting,
years.
man, what's up with this mic?
10 years.
What's up with this mic thing? I'm talking about 8 years into potting. You would think that I know how to be like spontaneous on the fly. So that's part of that issue is that I know how to be spontaneous. Okay. And I'm just telling that neurosurgeon that don't listen to what I told you. All right, listen to the concept. Listen to the concept, which is follow your heart. And if you don't want to sign that contract, I told him to write a letter and stuff.
You did not tell him to write a letter.
No, I didn't tell him to write a letter. But I do think that you should have that meeting up front with them.
Yeah.
What if they hem and haw and they stammer? Should they practice this in front of like a mirror and stuff like that?
Maybe practice it with somebody and just, have the words that have the first couple of sentences.
Yeah, my name is Nee, and listen, I just don't, want to take this job because it's just not going to work for me, Shit, let me do it again.
Yeah, basically, like that. I would say have the first 2 or 3 sentences. So the first sentence being, you're not going to be happy about what I have to say. Second sentence, I'm going to have to decline the offer to become an employee. The third sentence, there are just some things, some personal things that I have to really take care of that, unfortunately, a employment contract is not going to be able to cover. I really enjoy working here. I'd like to keep it that way. And, we have a great relationship right now, and I appreciate everything that you've offered. But at this time, it's just not going to work for me.
Great advice. Great advice. So one of the things in this article that I think you guys should pay attention, it says employees cost more than their paycheck, right? He says, I want to point out one very important point in regards to income. Mm-hmm. If you're employed, your annual income only reflects part of your whole compensation package. Yep. As an employee, a lot of your pay never hits your bank account. Yep. It comes in the form of benefits like 401k match, a pension, health insurance coverage, life insurance, etc. While these figures vary wildly by employee, you can roughly calculate your benefits. You can roughly calculate that your benefits are costing your employer an additional 20 to 40% on top of your base pay. So if we think about my $600,000 of income as an employed urologist back in Southern California, that might be more equivalent to a total compensation package of 750 stacks to 850 stacks. The same thing is true for locum tenens work, but much to a lesser extent. Right? As a locum tenens, I'm reimbursed for whatever I spend on transportation and lodging. For me, this means they'll pay my rental car, air ticket, and hotel room. This ticket typically comes to about $2,000 for every 7-day stretch. They also cover my medical malpractice.
Yeah, you can't really. So he's saying that he can't really project what the medical malpractice costs him because they do it essentially in a plan with all of the doctors.
So there's like a group plan.
It's just a fraction, right? That's just a small fraction of what they pay for everybody. Including those who are employed by the
basically
employer.
what he's saying is he costs the hospital how much his time is worth.
Yep.
Right, which is coming out to about $400, and then he's coming about $2,000. So basically about $9,000. Well, $2,000 every month for transportation and lodging, and then $7,000 annual, which is way under the 20 to 40% markup that you get on your own annual salary if you're employed. So I think just to wrap this up, because we had a conversation with someone earlier in this today, and we were talking about why more people are going into locums when you're in residency. More than likely, your academic attending is going to tell you don't do locums.
Right.
The majority of people who are going into locums are looking because they're trying to get control of their life back. They're trying to get control of their schedule, how much they get paid, and they just feel like if they're going to put in this amount of work, then at the end,
they should have some control.
You should have some control. And I think that scares a lot of folks is being employed nowadays and not feeling like you are in control of your schedule or having to ask. We've talked about this, and I think that is something that I think a lot of residencies, particularly the attendings, the program directors, they're going to have to get knowledge on locums and be able to give some really good advice on this, because I feel like if you just give a blanket statement of you don't want to do locums, it's not good for your career, that's actually bad advice.
Right.
It's actually bad. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you have your program director or anybody who's in your program and they're telling you just blanketed, like if you're considering locums, that it's a bad idea because it's bad for your career, they don't know what they're talking about, because that's absolutely wrong. I can understand if they sat down with you and they gave you like, hey, I did locums back in the day and this is what happened to me. Even then, that's, I wouldn't say...
It's just because they had a certain experience doesn't mean that you're going to have that experience.
But just the same way they tell you, but just the same way they tell you, listen, you shouldn't need to go get this academic job at this other spot. You can go there and have a terrible experience.
Exactly.
You know how many people right now are writing articles about how they left their academic position because, responsibility on top of responsibility on top of responsibility. You're not getting paid more and you're taking charts home with you. Like,
publish or perish.
Just in general, like, I just don't see why you would want to turn somebody off from being able to kind of start something on their own, right? And I think just saying it's bad advice, just saying that it's, this is bad for your career, I just think that that's the wrong approach. And I think you're doing a disservice to somebody who's fresh out.
Right.
You can at least say, hey, I know somebody who does locums, or, maybe consider it and see what happens. You can always come in and come out. That's the way I look at it. So,
I mean, I think employment is not a bad thing. It can work, depending on your situation. And locums is not a bad thing. It can work depending on your situation. But you have to be able to figure out where you want to land.
Yeah. I think for us, Meek, we're now 12 years in, right? So 12 years ago, when I finished fellowship, I went straight to doing locums. And I found myself working a lot. But I was really happy because I was able to make my schedule, move around things that were really important for me. Like if my nephew had something to do at his elementary school, I was always able to be there for that. If my parents had doctor's appointments, I remember my dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I basically made it to all of his appointments. I made it to, all of his radiation treatments. I was there for my parents. I remember giving them my old, Volkswagen Jetta, because I was renting cars all the time. But it just worked out for me. But I was on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And then we traded that in like within a year and a half to be employed. And within the first couple of months, I was like, clinically, I like what I'm doing. But there's a certain level of control I feel like I forfeited that I don't like.
Right.
And it took me 3 years to just be like, you know what? I'm not re-signing.
Yeah, we kind of knew going in that we already knew we weren't going to be there.
Yeah. But I think in general, even if it was in another spot, like it could have been in Miami, it could have been in New York, it could have been in wherever it would have been, I probably would have been like, no, as an employed doc. And I'm not saying that that's the answer for everybody. I'm just saying that if you have that itch, if you feel like, hey, locums is the spot for me, just know that there's a large amount of people who are shifting to that area or who are thriving there, and they are having an amazing time. So don't feel like you're going to be by yourself doing it just because if the folks at your residency don't support that. That's all I got to say about that. Boom. So maybe, I'm going to try to reach out to the Darwinian doctor and see if he wants to come on the show to kind of talk this and discuss this. Yeah. And we'll go from there.
That would be nice.
Any final thoughts, Dr. Renee?
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
And we heard from the algorithms, you guys don't care about what happens at the end of the show. Alfred, wrap it up. We'll catch y'all guys on the next episode of Docs Outside the Box. Peace.
They not like us. They not like us.